How does a 16-year-old boy go from running small cons to becoming one of the world's most wanted criminals, all before the age of 21? Meet Frank Abagnale Jr., the master of deception who forged millions, posed as a Pan Am pilot, a doctor, and even a lawyer, all while staying one step ahead of the FBI. But how did his audacious life of crime finally catch up to him? And how did he turn his skills into a career with the FBI? Get ready for the unbelievable true story of the man who turned fraud into an art form. Frank William Abagnale Jr. was born on April 27, 1948, in Bronxville, New York. His parents, Frank Sr. and Paula, provided a stable, middle-class upbringing for their 4 children, running a stationery business that afforded them a comfortable lifestyle. Frank Jr. had a close relationship with his father, who he often described as his greatest role model. His parents' separation when Frank was 16 deeply impacted him, setting the stage for his rebellious and opportunistic behavior. The divorce, coupled with financial difficulties, left Frank desperate for independence. He initially stayed with his father but soon grew restless. His need for control over his life, and his fascination with wealth, pushed him toward petty crimes. His first scams involved small deceptions, such as altering numbers on his driver's license to make himself appear older. While his early schemes were minor, they showcased his natural talent for manipulation and ingenuity. Frank's first significant con involved exploiting a gasoline credit card his father had given him for emergencies. Frank would use the card to buy car parts, tires, and other items from gas stations, then resell them for cash. While this was a small-scale operation, it revealed Frank's knack for exploiting systems. His father's disappointment when the scam was uncovered left a lasting impression, but it did little to deter Frank from pursuing larger schemes. Frank's fascination with aviation began when he observed the prestige and perks that came with being a pilot. He decided to impersonate one, not to fly planes but to enjoy the benefits of free travel and access to luxury accommodations. Using a stolen Pan Am uniform and a forged employee ID card, Frank successfully convinced Pan Am and other airlines that he was a qualified pilot. Frank learned about deadheading, a policy allowing pilots and crew members to fly for free on other airlines to reposition for their assignments. He used this loophole to travel extensively, flying over 1 million miles to 26 countries. Frank stayed in luxury hotels, dined at exclusive restaurants, and lived a life of opulence, all under the guise of a Pan Am co-pilot. Despite never actually flying a plane, he was once allowed to sit in the cockpit as a passenger, where he relied on his charm and basic aviation jargon to avoid suspicion. While posing as a pilot, Frank began forging Pan Am paychecks. He meticulously studied real checks, experimenting with designs and security features. His fraudulent checks became so convincing that banks rarely questioned them. At one point, Frank created a system using magnetic ink and check printing technology, allowing him to cash counterfeit checks faster than authorities could trace them. Frank's boldness during this period was extraordinary. He often cashed checks in the presence of bank managers, even engaging them in conversation to deflect suspicion. By the time his pilot con ended, he had cashed millions of dollars in fake checks. After growing wary of the aviation industry's increasing scrutiny, Frank pivoted to a new identity. Dr. Frank Connors, a pediatrician at a hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. He forged credentials to secure the position, presenting himself as a Harvard-educated physician. Astonishingly, Frank managed to avoid performing medical procedures, instead delegating responsibilities to interns and nurses. Frank's ability to maintain his deception hinged on his quick thinking and confidence. When emergencies arose, he would deflect responsibility by claiming he needed to observe the interns for training purposes. Despite having no medical training, Frank maintained this facade for nearly a year without being exposed. He later admitted that this period was the most stressful of his criminal career, as the stakes were far higher than in his previous cons. Frank's stint as a doctor ended when he feared being exposed during a particularly critical situation. He left the hospital abruptly, leaving colleagues confused, but without immediate suspicion. This episode highlighted Frank's ability to recognize when his ruses were becoming unsustainable, enabling him to move on before being caught. Frank's next bold impersonation was as a lawyer. After forging a Harvard law degree, he applied for and passed the Louisiana State Bar exam. Frank later claimed that he passed the exam by studying for only a few weeks, a testament to his intelligence and ability to learn quickly. Armed with his fake credentials, he secured a job as an assistant attorney general in Louisiana. Frank's position involved handling minor cases and conducting legal research. He relied on his charm and intuition to navigate situations that required legal expertise, often consulting law books or delegating tasks to avoid making mistakes. His colleagues admired his intelligence and confidence, making it even less likely they would question his qualifications. Frank's time as a lawyer came to an end when a colleague grew suspicious of his background and began investigating his credentials. Sensing trouble, Frank left the job and moved on to his next scheme, once again evading capture. Frank's fraudulent activities extended far beyond the United States. He traveled extensively, cashing forged checks in countries across Europe, South America, and Asia. His ability to adapt to different banking systems and exploit international loopholes demonstrated his remarkable ingenuity. By his early 20s, Frank had become one of the most wanted criminals in the world. Interpol and the FBI worked tirelessly to track him down, but his constant movement and use of multiple aliases made him difficult to catch. Frank used his wits to stay ahead, often relying on last-minute escapes and carefully planned diversions. In 1969, Frank's luck ran out. While in Montpellier, France, a stewardess he had previously dated recognized him and alerted the authorities. He was arrested and imprisoned in France, where he served a brief sentence before being extradited to Sweden. After another short sentence in Sweden, he was sent back to the United States to face trial. After serving less than 5 years of a 12-year sentence in U.S. federal prison, Frank was released on the condition that he assist the FBI in combating check fraud. His extensive knowledge of forgery and security systems made him an invaluable asset. Frank transitioned from con artist to consultant, using his skills to help banks and law enforcement agencies improve their security measures. He founded Abagnale and Associates, a consultancy that has advised major corporations and government institutions on fraud prevention. Frank's work has been credited with helping to modernize check security and prevent identity theft. In addition to his consulting work, Frank became a sought-after public speaker, sharing his story to educate others about the dangers of fraud. His lectures often blend humor and insight, making him a popular figure at conferences and events. Frank's story reached a global audience through his 1980 autobiography, Catch Me If You Can, and the 2002 film adaptation starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. The film brought renewed attention to his exploits, solidifying his status as a cultural icon. Despite his fame, some critics have questioned the accuracy of Frank's claims. Investigations into his past suggest that certain aspects of his story may have been embellished, including the scale of his check fraud and the duration of his impersonations. However, Frank maintains that his account is truthful, and emphasizes his commitment to using his experiences for good. Frank's life story continues to captivate audiences, serving as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the power of redemption. His ability to transform his criminal past into a career focused on helping others highlights the complexity of his character. Frank Abagnale's life is a testament to the power of ingenuity and adaptability, but it's also a cautionary tale about the consequences of deception. From teenage con artist to trusted FBI consultant, his story reveals the thin line between genius and crime. What do you think? Does his redemption outweigh his crimes? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this dive into Frank's extraordinary life, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true stories about the rise and fall of fascinating figures. See you in the next episode.